how would you how would you describe Christina King outside of basketball? You seem like a very well-rounded person, and you've been able to contextualize basketball from an early age. You,
Hmm.
you know why you're in this, and you can see the end, and more specifically, like what you're gonna do afterwards. But like, who's Christina King outside of basketball?
I would say, I mean, there's a couple of different ways that you can attack this. I would say that like I'm a God-fearing, driven woman who is about her business because it was never just about basketball for me. Like I said, at the beginning, it was all basketball was just a means to an end. So it was like, how can I get all that I can by using my platform as a basketball player? So I never wanted to be defined as you're a basketball player. I wanted to be defined as, basketball is something that you do, but you are so much more than that. So for me, I've always been very professional and very driven in like what I wanted out of my career and my life. And so right now, like being able to kind of give back to the game, I've started a couple of brands. I have a full-time job that I do while I'm playing basketball. So I've never just been a basketball player, but being very much about her business and somebody that is, I would say driven and just always looking towards the next thing. And sometimes that can be like a bad thing just because it's like you're never content with just the moment. And me and my dad go back and forth on this all the time because he's always like, enjoy the moment, enjoy it when you're going through it. And, I've struggled with that a lot just because I'm like, but there's so much more to do. There's so much more people to reach. Like somebody else needs to hear this story. Somebody else needs to, be like have a conversation with so that they can understand that it's not the end for them. Like they have so much more that they can do. But I would definitely say a God-fearing, driven woman, just trying to make it in this world. I'm 27, about to be 28, and I've learned a lot in my few years of being on this earth, but there's just so much more out there. And I think I'm now in the last couple of years being able to tap into just more than basketball.
Yeah. So I know you got a couple of brands. One of them is King of Queens, right? And like that.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
So King of Queens kind of started because obviously my last name is King, and dealing
I
with
think
women's
it's dope, by the way.
basketball.
I love branding, and I think that is dope. Like it's just
Yeah. But also deeper than that, I've always kind of been the underdog. I went to, I was in the West Coast in a small city and then moved to Georgia. And so that would kind of put me behind the curve. But then, going to a Division I, but a mid major, that put me behind the curve. So I've always kind of been an underdog in my field. But at the same time, like being able to swing big and kind of, I love the play on words because it's like rule your life, like dare to rule your life. So kind of that whole king of queens royalty kind of thing. Like one of my biggest things is rule your life. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and can't do. Always work your hardest to be able to set yourself up to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do, whether that's in basketball, whether that's in your career, whether that's in, friendships or whatnot. Like whatever it is that you want to do, rule it and don't have any regrets, because the last thing you want is to have fear kind of sideline you. And I feel like so many times, especially on the women's side, like there aren't mentors. We fear helping other people because it's like, well, if I help them, then there's not enough room at the table for me to be successful. But I really am trying to push that like we can all be rulers in our own field and be able to build this community.
Hmm. What advice would you give younger Christina, when you look back? What would you say to yourself? As you think about what you've been through, what advice might you have given yourself to handle different situations differently?
I would say probably don't be afraid to make the tough, unpopular decisions and choices. I know, I'm not the most confrontational person. I mean, on the court, it might be a little bit different just because like in the heat of the moment, you're trying to win games and stuff. So I come across a little bit more aggressive than, just in everyday life. But I would say don't be afraid to make those hard choices because, when you do, I feel like sometimes God tests us to be like, okay, how are you going to respond when things aren't comfortable for you? And I think in our times where we're vulnerable and most uncomfortable is where we can really see the most growth. So I
Mm.
would say, put yourself in those situations and confront them head on. Like don't shy away from it at all, because you'll see yourself. I feel like I would have reached things probably a lot quicker if I was able to just be like, this is who I am. This is what I want. Like, let's just go for it. So, yeah, I would say, don't shy away from making those tough choices.